Hey, what's up people? Piz out here, and today I wanted to do a brief video talking about Paradise Lost 3, Purgatory, but really more so I wanted to talk about just the Paradise Lost films in general, all three of them, and just about the case in general. Paradise Lost 3 Purgatory is the final chapter in the Paradise Lost documentary series chronicling the arrest and conviction of three young men in West Memphis, Arkansas for the purportedly occult satanic murders of three young boys. And the original Paradise Lost 2, Revelations, I've talked about in length on this channel before, and if you haven't seen those films, I highly recommend you checking them out. Paradise Lost 3 Purgatory is airing now on HBO, and while it in no way stacks up to the original Paradise Lost or even Paradise Lost 2, you know, it shows the progression throughout the years as far as, you know, the Damien Echols, Jesse Misskelley, and Jason Baldwin were convicted originally of the three murders with really no evidence pointing to them other than the fact that the crimes were reported to be of occult nature, a satanic ritual, so on and so forth. And the three boys, you know, were all different. From a small town, very small, conservative, you know, town, and they stood out because they wore black clothes, they had long hair, and they loved listening to metal. And that's kind of it. I think the tagline for the original Paradise Lost was witchcraft or witch hunt, and really it was the latter. Through the course of the years since their conviction, Paradise Lost 2 kind of talked about, you know, the loose ends, the questions that the original documentary had raised, the lack of evidence pointing to the boys as the murderers, actually pointing in different directions, you know, just chronicling how they were trying to get to, you know, the case retried, showing, you know, presenting different evidence or new evidence to the judge. Unfortunately, it was the same judge. The appeals judge was the same judge that convicted them originally, so he didn't want to hear anything of it. And all motions for appeal or for retrial were quickly, the kibosh was put on them by this guy. And Paradise Lost 3 just sort of, you know, of course DNA evidence has come a long way since way back then. You know, there's a lot of specialists that come in and just absolutely obliterate the state's case against the three boys. Of course now, grown men, they've spent, you know, half their lives in prison. Damien Echols has spent half his life on death row. And it just really shows how Paradise Lost 3 Purgatory just shows how easily somebody can be convicted of murder in America, in small town America, simply based on the way they look and, you know, what their preferences are pertaining to clothing, hairstyle, and music. And that was something that with the original Paradise Lost just stuck with me and haunted me and really chilled me to the bone. I mean, I'm from a small town not unlike West Memphis, Arkansas. You know, you've got small town morals, you've got small town politics, you've got small town fears. You throw all those things together, and you got kind of a powder keg there. But it showed the original Paradise Lost. The thing that was so chilling to me about it was it showed just how easily you could be convicted of, you know, the ultimate crime and be sentenced to death with no evidence pointing towards you as the killer. But, you know, you look different, you act differently, you like different things than everybody else, and that's you know, that's evidence enough, that's cause enough to lock you away for the rest of your life or to have you executed by the state. And you know, I've followed the case throughout the years. You know, friends of mine and I, we used to talk about it. We used to, you know, we watched the films together. We watched both the Paradise Lost films together, and I've watched them myself numerous times. And, you know, I've followed the case online, and, you know, so many, there was a huge media uproar about it. You know, Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam was a huge supporter of the West Memphis 3, Natalie Maines from the Dixie Chicks, Johnny Depp, you know, the list goes on and on. And other things Paradise Lost 3 brings up. I mean, Paradise Lost, I mean, the evidence, there was so little evidence against the 3 boys then, men now, that Mark Byers, who's one of the fathers of the slain boys, who was one of the strongest, you know, I mean, he would have executed all 3 of them himself personally if given half the chance, is now one of their strongest supporters. So I mean, if he can be swayed, wow. Paradise Lost 3, they also bring up allegations of juror misconduct. The finger is pointed at a completely different suspect, as DNA evidence from him was actually found on one of the young men, which really the only DNA evidence from anyone ever associated with the crime wasn't any of the 3 boys, wasn't anybody but this one guy who happens to be one of the stepfathers of one of the murdered boys. And Paradise Lost 3, one of the things that they did that I thought was very good at the end was they dedicated the film to the 3 victims, which I think in all the uproar and the hoopla about the case, it's unfortunately the 3 victims, the 3 little boys who were murdered in the first place that we've kind of forgotten about. And, you know, that happens a lot with these kind of, you know, very salacious media saturated cases. You know, we forget about the victims. And I thought that was a nice gesture on the part of the filmmakers Joe Berlinger and Bruce Sinofsky. It's just, you know, it's quite a journey. It was quite a journey. I'm talking about all 3 films, the case, you know, following it, of course, the spoiler. You know, the 3 men were released. They chose the Alford plea. They used the Alford plea, which is basically they admit guilt to the crime that all these years they've pled their innocence for, yet remained imprisoned. But if they plead guilty to it now, they'll be released. It's just a weird plea. Basically, the state knew that, you know, there was going to be a retrial based on the lack of DNA evidence, and it's going to take years for this trial to come to fruition. It's going to cost the taxpayers millions of dollars, and they're going to be acquitted. Or we can have them say, yeah, I did it, and we'll show them the door. And, you know, in the best interest of the 3 men, they chose the Alford plea. They pled guilty, and they were subsequently released. So that's kind of the spoiler that happened all before Paradise Lost 3 Purgatory was released. I did a video talking about that, talking about them being freed. I'll put a link to that. Yeah, it's just been really quite a journey, and highly recommend Paradise Lost 3 Purgatory. I don't think it's quite as good as the other 2 documentaries in this series, but it is a very fitting capper. If you haven't seen Paradise Lost or Paradise Lost 2, I highly, highly, highly recommend them. I cannot recommend films really any higher than those 2. The original in particular, just really absolutely chilling, just chilling stuff. So yeah, anyway, until next time, you guys take it easy, and peace.